don't know how you guys view. I mean, Wimbledon is the most prestigious of all the slams. It's the one where you ask the players, hey, if there's one we want to win, Wimbledon is usually the answer because of that prestige. There's nothing like a raucous U.S. Open crowd from our vantage point. Do you see it the same way from where you're sitting?
Yeah, I think the tradition of Wimbledon makes it really difficult to beat as the number one. But I think certainly out of the four, US Open is probably number two. Definitely number one in the hard court slams. Coming in the calendar when it does as well, going sort of 2/3 towards the end of the season. Australian Open coming right at the start when sort of players are in a bit questionable condition a lot of the time. And yeah, no, the US Open probably is a bit more sort of time zone friendly for most of the world as well, so that helps too.
What were your post-draw thoughts? So for those who are still looking to bet in the futures market, because these are always put back up here in the early rounds, what were your thoughts on how it shook out for Novak Djokovic? I think I know the answer to this. And how it shook out for Iga Swiatek?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it shook out pretty well for Novak. The pick I actually liked most, if you can get into the quarter markets, was Tommy Paul.
Me too, baby. We're simpatico on that one. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the draw seems to have nicely opened up for him, or will nicely open up for him. And that also has a little bit, even with, for example, Dominic Thiem winning yesterday against Bublik has probably helped him a little bit in that cause. And in the women's, I quite like. You can get. I don't know if you can get this kind of market in America, but around 8-1 Europe, you can get on a Swiatek Sabalenka final.
Oh, I don't think we do have that. We had a field bet, which I think was Swiatek, Sabalenka, and I want to say Jessie Pegula versus the field, but we didn't have a exact final matchup market that I saw anywhere. But that's an interesting one. So you think Sabalenka does beat Iga in the finals?
No, well, just no. They'll face each other. It's 8-1 that they play each other. It doesn't matter about it.
Yeah, 8-1 is the bet. Okay.
Plus 650 at DraftKings.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry. DraftKings does have it. Plus 650 at DraftKings. How did you do yesterday? How did this tournament start for you?
Yeah, so good start in the men's. I was really keen to take on Ben Shelton because he's just been in a really bad run of form, and also I don't know if you noticed this, but he derives over a third of his ranking points from one tournament, which is the Australian Open quarterfinal that he made in January, and he didn't beat a single top 50 player to win that. So I look sometimes for these kind of flawed ranking players who, maybe they got the draw opened up for them and they got a ton of ranking points in one particular event. And actually, if Shelton lost in the first round of that tournament, he would have he would actually be ranked about high 80s in the world, about 87, 88. So and I think that's probably more in line with where I see him in terms of being extremely limited on return. And I thought that he would struggle to win by a big margin, even against a pretty mediocre opponent in Pedro Cachin. And we cashed in with Pedro turning in the 6-1 first set to win on the game handicap. So that was a 5.5 start for that one. Lost a bit on Mertens in the women's in the handicap, but she sort of scraped through. I went to sleep and it was 1-1 with Mertens having a break point in the final set. I was like, right, okay, well, hopefully she'll get this done without too much fuss. She didn't break that game and nicked it in the end, but very unconvincingly. So that was a shame. And I think we go back to tomorrow, first of all, before today. Shelton is against Dominic Thiem, and I don't mind Thiem as a slight underdog there after that great win against Bublik, coming off the final with Kitzbühel as well. I don't think we're ever going to see Thiem close to where he once was, but can he beat a pretty limited player? I think so.
Yeah, he beat Bublik in straight sets, didn't he, in the opening round? Yeah, it was pretty clean performance from Dominic Thiem.
Definitely.
So that's tomorrow, by the way. Dano liking Dominic Thiem as a dog against Ben Shelton. What about today?
So today, there's not much that really catches my eye on both sides, really. One play that I don't mind is fading Nicholas Jarry, who actually gave a walkover in Cincinnati last time he was supposed to be on court. Jarry is a pretty solid favourite, despite that sort of recent fitness issues. And he's playing against a pretty talented young player who maybe hasn't played a lot of hard court though, Luca Van Ash, but he did win indoor title on the challenger level in March against some quality opposition. So I quite like sort of the potential of a younger player there against a potentially injured player at underdog prices, but it's not a major lean. I think both Brits who are favourites in this the men's draw tonight, Norrie and Andy Murray, I think both of them have got some kind of a fitness or form issues. It wouldn't certainly I wouldn't be looking at a Brit double, but I'm not sure which one looks a bit more vulnerable. Possible. Norrie probably faces the better player, but Murray with those fitness issues in particular. And then in the women's, again, there's a lot of kind of mismatches and stuff like that. So which often happens in these early rounds of slams. There's definitely our round one in a slam is always tricky, especially with all these players coming in with injury doubts and stuff like that. But I quite like Caroline Garcia just because even though she hasn't won all the games recently, she's facing a downgrade in opposition. Yifan Wang, whose opponent, has won a lot of games recently, but hasn't really played anyone that decent. So it's almost like a horse race where the high profile horse has dropped down 2 grades, and the lower profile horse has won a couple of races at a lower grade and now steps up. That's tough.
So of all of that, a fate of Nicholas Jarry is the one that you like the best.
I think so. It's close, but yeah.
You had a couple dogs that you gave out on the podcast.
Yes. The U.S. Open is off to an awesome start. But yeah, Bonzi and Jiri both come through. I was a little nervous about Bonzi at times, but that was solid. But Jiri was just a truck yesterday. Nakashima did not show up.
No, he didn't.
And honestly, actually, I kept my card pretty small yesterday, and that was pretty good. I avoided a couple of true heartbreakers. So good start for me for the tennis card. And actually, I kind of like the men's slate overall today. There's
you do? See, Dano?
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones.
Dano didn't really like anything, and I thought it was sparse.
Really?
What did you end up with?
Interesting. So the aforementioned Taro Daniel Gael Monfils match, that one to me, the total looks too low. Seeing the 37 out there, and I think this is realistically looks like a deep 4, maybe a 5-set match. We know that Monfils is not one to be shy of leaning into kind of really lengthening a match. And honestly, Taro Daniel in qualifying was pretty darn solid.
His hard court numbers are great, Taro Daniel's.
Yeah, they are, and people I think people can just kind of forget that he's even a factor when we get to this time of the season. But he's live to upset Monfils, in my opinion. People kind of just assume Monfils is going to make a run here, and I don't know that I've seen enough really from him recently to say that that's sure. But
Taro, to give you an idea, Taro Daniel, I do this thing where I have the picks that I like, and then I winnow it down. Taro Daniel was in the ones that I winnowed off at the end. So because I didn't bet it, you are going to get that one home. There's no question.
So here's how it's going to go. Monfils he's going to split the first 2. He's going to win the third in impressive fashion in a tiebreak. He's going to tank the 4th set.
That's exactly.
And then he's going to pull off some miraculous 5th set nonsense, and deep in the tiebreak or something like that. So I think Monfils probably comes through 3-2, but I like that over 37 games a ton. Over sets is a fair bet as well. I think that can go the distance. The most interesting match for me of the day is Sebastian Baez versus Borna Coric. Baez is coming off of a pretty impressive run in Winston-Salem, and a lot of times when when a 250 grinder wins the 250 right before a slam, that's not always a good time to get involved with that player, because they tend to kind of pat themselves on the back. Job well done. We won a title. Let's just go get our check and get out of here. But he played Coric really competitively in that run in Winston-Salem. Coric took a ton of money in that match. I'm not sure if you remember that market, but he got bet out into like the minus 220 range. It was like one-way action. People were pretty sure Coric was going to win. Baez was phenomenal, I thought, in that particular match, and honestly dominated the match, even though he won in 3. And I think realistically, they did not give him an especially fair shake here. It's basically the same market that opened. with him in like the plus 180 range. And I think plus 3.5 games is the right way to attack this. They played 2 tie breaks in their Winston-Salem match. The degree of separation between the 2 players is just super narrow. And I think Baez is a fighter. So, I'm going to take plus 3.5 games with Baez. And I think realistically, he's value on the money line as well if you want a little sprinkle. So
I'm sitting here smiling because both Daniel and Baez were 2 that I cut out before I came to mine, which means they are a lock to get there for you. Good for you. So that's the over in Taro Daniel games, Baez plus the game. So you didn't play either money line, but you played them otherwise creatively.
Yeah.
Anything on the ladies?
I didn't play any ladies, but I did. We talked about it, I think, already. But I laid the sets with Wu Yibing. He had a weird kind of spooky collapse in DC in the heat, but he was clearly the better player in that match. And I think now with a couple of weeks to kind of acclimate to the conditions, and in fact, it's a pretty cool day here, as I can attest to in person. I think Wu is going to be pretty dynamic today. I don't rate Lajovic at all in this match. I think Wu, I make him about a 66% chance to win. And I laid minus 1.5 sets there. If something is going on with him physically, I would expect a retirement and a refund as opposed to taking a loss there. So that's my favorite way to play that one.
I'm Oppo Drew on one, and I'm Oppo Dan on
you're
one.
On Lajovic?
Yeah, I'm going to get crushed today. I have a feeling. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Mm-hmm. What else you got? What else did you play?
Let's put them up, Kelley. I got Lajovic was the only one I came up with on the men's side. The other ones that you talked about, I dropped off. I did take Yifan Wang against Caroline Garcia, which Dano likes Garcia. And then I took Victoria Tomova as a big dog on the ladies' side. She's taking on Peyton Stearns, who has really not played well lately. I think this is like a Peyton Stearns reputation line. So I took Tomova there, whose numbers are really good. And then NCAA sensation Fiona Crawley. She should be a dog against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, but Pavlyuchenkova has not played a lot, and when she has played, she hasn't been good. And Crawley has a lot of reps under her, so I think that's a live upset possibility as well. Those are my 4.
Yeah, I dig it. Am I overreacting and saying based on yesterday's results, this is we can just fast forward to Iga and Djokovic in the winner's circle party?
You are not. You are not exaggerating at all.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.